I don't really remember when I first became aware of the idea of VTubers. One day they were just sort of there. People were talking about them on Twitter. There were new ones coming out. Originally it was just in Japanese, most of them. Then English-speaking ones started coming out too. I do remember when hololive English was first kicked off. I remember that happening, but I really don't remember just when I found out what a VTuber even was, to be honest. They just sort of spawned there. And I wasn't super into them at first. As an anime fan, as a cringe-ass, silly dude who I am, I wasn't super against the idea. I never had any sort of oh, this looks cringe, I don't want to check it out. But it took me a while to properly understand what's the appeal here. It took me a bit to fully get it at first. Then one fateful day, I was scrolling through Twitter. I was out on my dad's car. We were out on some trip or whatever. And I remember just sitting down and scrolling through Twitter. And I found this clip of Gawr Gura singing Suario Days, the opening theme song from Gurren Lagann. I hadn't even watched the show yet, but I knew the song. It's a pretty cool song. I now love Gurren Lagann too, but that's besides the point. And I was just impressed by how genuinely good of a singer she was. That's where it finally clicked. Why VTubers are so cool. That's when I finally understood it. These are real talented people. There's a bit of a treading of a line when it comes to VTubing between genuine, just me and the camera streaming and interacting with the fans, and a degree of acting or roleplay that you have to put into it so you can actually act like the character you're supposed to act like. Just the human element is very cool, it's very interesting. The idea that, this person is playing a bit of a character, but through that character, through that acting, you get to see a little bit more of the person underneath in a very genuine way, is what I like the most about them, to be honest. Of course, the touch of fun iconography and roleplay and sort of agreed upon believing in these semi-fictional characters is part of the fun too. That's what differentiates them from other, IRL streamers. But when I'm looking into this stuff, I like seeing the person underneath. I like seeing the emotions. If you really think about it, acting as a VTuber is artistic performance, and I think that's really cool. But who am I to say, honestly? Even now, I'm not exactly a hardcore VTuber fan. Keeping up with live streamers in general has always been a bit of a difficult task for me. Every week or every day or whenever they stream, being there and keeping up with chat. I've had my phases of watching certain streams, but I've never been too deep where I would always keep up with the same VTuber for years. I honestly, up until very recently, and arguably now, I don't really have the budget to keep super chatting streamers all that often either. So, from me becoming first aware of VTubers up until right now, my experience with these sorts of streamers is admittedly comparatively limited. I know there are people who become real super fans, they super chat all the time, they buy all the merch, they know all the songs by heart, and I'm not one of those people. When it comes to VTubers, my allegiance really is mostly with Gawr Gura. I think partially just because she's the most popular one and she comes up more frequently in conversation. I also just think she's really cute and really endearing. I like myself some goofy goobers, and she's a really goofy goober. And for those unaware, Gura is pretty much the biggest English-speaking VTuber. She has the most subscribers, and she's just this cute little short girl that plays video games and stuff. But I did have Rin Penrose YouTube Shorts brain rot phase a while back. Recently, I've been watching Lei Asimov, who's actually really interesting for the non-gaming conversations, but that's kind of besides the point. I know who Korone is, because she collabs with Sonic a lot, and I see a lot of her clips too. I know my way around the general popular VTuber space, but I know there are people out there who are way more into it than I am. But still, keeping up with these streamers, it was still just fun to have them as this constant fun little thing that would appear every once in a while in my life and then disappear again. I would always be able to check back on what's been going on. I could check the channel, see some funny clips. If there's a stream going on and I happen to be free that night, I could always just leave it in the background and hear the silly sharks saying and doing silly things, and it would always be a fun little time. It's chill, it's fun, and it made a few of my afternoons and nights a lot more pleasant. One that stands out to me was her stream playing Sonic Frontiers, because, I have Sonic Brain Rot, and that was back when that game came out and was super hyped about it. I was so happy to just, oh, good, it's playing Sonic Frontiers. I remember watching through that entire stream, and it was a very memorable night. I won't forget it that easily. A little small core memory there. It was a fun time. Eventually some of their animations would pop up in my YouTube recommended. I could check them out, think, oh, that's cool. I hope I can see more of those in the future, and then kind of forget about it afterwards. Some fan works show up in my feed and whatnot. Recently I saw the animation of Gura interacting with Dante and Virgil from Devil May Cry, which is clipped from a real stream where they got their voice actors to wish Gura a happy birthday, which is just the most adorable thing ever. I think I have her cover of Smash Mouth's All Star in my YouTube music playlist, and it would pop up on occasion, and whenever it did, I was like, oh wow, yeah, this little sharky goober, she's fun, she's awesome. I wish I could watch more of her streams. I really like that she's around, you know? And even when I went to like anime cons and stuff, I would always see some cosplayers of some VTubers around, and I would always think, dang, that's really cool. You know, if it's about that threading of the line between fictional character and real streamer that I mentioned earlier. If I went to a con cosplaying as fucking Germa or Fidel Games Cage, I mean, I could do it, but it would probably be a bit creepy. Whereas with VTubers, because they're sort of characters as well, it's like seeing Santa in a shopping mall, you know? Like, holy crap, it's Santa, but instead of being holy crap, it's Santa, it's holy crap, it's Gawr Gura. And it's always a fun time. She kind of became an icon of the gaming anime community online. A lot of them did, you know. I'm mostly focusing on Gura here, but this really goes for a bunch of different VTubers, and they appreciate their work. And I honestly hope that right now I'm able to get more into it after all this reflection that I'm sharing with you in this video. But seeing as it was mostly just a background, every once in a while thing for me, I was very surprised when I realized I got super emotional when I found out Gawr Gura was graduating, aka basically retiring from being a VTuber forever, pretty much. Just keeping up with that announcement, it was kind of a roller coaster ride. She first said, oh, I have some big news to announce at this time, and pretty much at that point we all kind of figured out, oh, she's gonna graduate, right? And then the actual stream happened. It was like, oh, dang. And I remember waking up the next day and seeing some commentary clips from some other VTubers in her agency talking about their experiences with Gura and what they felt about her graduating and stuff. And it felt pretty emotional. I was kind of messed up by the whole thing in a way I didn't expect to. That whole lead up to Gura's graduation actually got me more into the world of VTubing, as the YouTube algorithm kind of caught on to the fact that I was watching a bunch of videos about VTubers, and it kept recommending me more videos about VTubers. Yeah, but honestly, I think that's exactly it. I'm sure hardcore Gura fans felt it and are feeling it much more than I am. I'll be honest, like, I'm not gonna deny that or pretend like my experience is much more important or much bigger than the people who actually watched pretty much every single one of her streams and, you know, even gave her money through super chats and stuff. But much like, I don't know, a TV show host that's there every week and you don't really pay attention to it until they realize they're leaving for good, and you're like, gosh, this was a part of my life at one point and it's just not gonna be anymore. Gura was this constant little thing that I thought would just never end. The little goober shark, the gooba, she would always be there, you know? I knew of the hiatuses. I realized that she was taking longer breaks than usual lately, but even then, she's Gura. She's always gonna be there to make her days a little bit happier, I thought, you know? But it really wasn't the case. Obviously, it wasn't the case. And I remember pretty much her second to last real stream. It was another karaoke stream where she sang a bunch of songs and it wasn't even archived officially. And I remember watching that live, kind of listening to it while I did some cleaning around my dorm. And I remembered, like, it was these very same karaoke streams that sold me on the idea of VTubers, that got me more interested in Gura herself and VTubers in general, and that this would be her final one. It was kind of sad, to be honest. You know, she sang a few songs I'm familiar with. Vanilla Twilight by Owl City. Owl City is one of my favorite pop artists. It was fun to see that. And a bunch of other songs I knew. Some of them sad, some of them happy. And it was this incredibly sincere sort of experience listening to that, like just bittersweet realization that this is the end. Her actual final stream was this presentation where she sang a bunch of songs. In fact, her final song that was actually written by the mastermind behind Bury the Fucking Lights from Devil May Cry 5. It is super awesome. Love that song. I'm listening to it on repeat, and the animation that goes with it, the music video, so freaking awesome. It's so cool. But I'll be honest, I skipped around that final stream because I was just more interested to see how it would all actually end. And there was that final little animation. Gura leaving her room, organizing plushies of all the other members from her group, of her agency, and then jumping into the sea and waving goodbye. And I cried. Just a little bit. I might have just cried a little bit, but yeah, I wasn't expecting to feel like that, but in that moment, every single little stream that I kind of watched from her, all the little clips, all the little fan animations and memes just kind of rolled back in my head over all these years, and I was like, dang, it really is over, isn't it? It kind of put everything into perspective. The Gooba was gone, but she left the world a happier place, I feel. I feel like, especially the fans who are even more into her than me, will probably corroborate even more, but just the happy memories, the little smiles and slightly happier afternoons and nights that she gave us just won't go away like that, and there's something kind of beautiful about that. I guess this is a reminder to stop taking things for granted, you know? I never even imagined the possibility of Gura just not being there anymore, so I just kind of left her streams happen sometimes, and now I'm starting to kind of regret it. And now that I put it like this, it's hitting me that, yeah, little happy moments like this, inconsequential little, oh, let's leave this video in the background while I do something else, they add up, and they mean something, and they're part of what makes art and really life as a whole beautiful. Thanks for all the memories, Gura, and best of luck wherever you end up next.
You're gonna miss me by my walk, you're gonna miss me by my dog. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone.